I think the theme I'm noticing, and I think that that's also one misconception I really wanted to bring up, is that people believe chronic illness doesn't affect your mental health. And to that, I would say you couldn't be any more wrong. My mental health has actually struggled. I would say that my chronic illness is the main reason why I struggle mentally. It constantly feels like something that's pushing back to me. And a lot of times I feel like I'm not coping very well mentally, even though I'm decades into this process. It's like, especially like, I feel like I'm really struggling this week in particular. And I've been having those days where I'm waking up and I'm like, I'm done. I'm good. Like, this is like really difficult. So to everyone listening that doesn't know this, the body and mind are intrinsically connected. You can't actually separate them. So to anyone with a chronic illness who says, I'm struggling mentally, hear that, accept that, understand that that's very real and also a very normalized experience for people that are chronically ill.
Yeah, I actually had a person, we were discussing it, and they looked at me and they said, well, your struggle is physical, it's not mental. And I didn't even know what to say to that person, because anybody that spent time around me or knew me, like you said, knew it was very much. And it does affect you mentally. It does affect you emotionally. And I think to deny that is to deny a huge part of what you face every day. And I think, unfortunately in society, mental health is not something that's still very, very positive in terms of when people speak about it. And there's a lot of misinformation, and there's a lot of people that kind of look down on people that struggle with that, and wrongly so, because it does affect so many and so many things. And when you're battling chronic illness, that is going to be a huge part of it. And that's okay. It's okay to have those days where you're not okay.
I think there's also a difference in, like, if you live with a chronic illness, you probably are in one of two camps. One is that you deal with a condition that has symptoms every single day. It's unrelenting. And the other is relapse and remitting, which is maybe you have a baseline level of symptoms every day, but you could be feeling great for weeks, and then suddenly it's completely topsy-turvy and you're back to square one. 2 years ago, I had one of my worst flares. I just went for a simple walk around my neighborhood. It was 2-minute walk and it just flared up. And from there, I was back to what I would say is square one, restarting cardiac rehab, retrialing new medications, all these things that took about 4 months to get out of. And I think that that takes a toll mentally, because you think you've reached this level of your new stasis, and yet you can still have the potential to go back to the beginning. It doesn't mean that you won't be able to get back up to where you were before, but that constant up and down and unpredictability of what you're experiencing can be mentally very draining, because you think, oh, I'm doing great right now. Maybe I can go see my grandma next week and I can work out with her in the garden. That's great. But then that just suddenly turns like, okay, now I'm not able to do anything right now. And that's just kind of, I think, just difficult and affects mental health a lot as well.
And I think to your earlier point, Heidi, you had talked about how acceptance is not giving up. And I think that is so, so important here. It's like getting to the point of acceptance when you live with a chronic illness can be really, really hard because of the fact that it is so unpredictable. It's really hard to accept what your new normal looks like, because your new normal looks much, much different than it probably did pre-chronic illness, just because of the nature of these illnesses. And so I think that's a very important thing, is you need to be able to get to a point in acceptance with chronic illness, because that's the only way that you're going to be able to maintain your physical and mental health through it as best you possibly can. And it's really, really hard to get to that point. I don't want to diminish the fact that getting to acceptance is easy. It's not. It's really, really difficult, because like you said, it's a trauma. It's a huge traumatic life change, and it takes a while to get there.